There are a bunch of mage sets in Elden Ring, but unfortunately most of them are not that great for a mage. And in this video I'm going to show you why, and more importantly what you do actually want to wear as a mage, and if you really want to look like a mage and wear a mage set, which one you should actually go for in my opinion. And I will cover the best armor sets for the early, mid and late game. So following that path, let's get started. In the early game, you're just going to want to wear whatever set you're given from your starting character as a mage. The Astrologer set is going to simply be the best for the early game as a mage. If you started out as any other class and you've decided to become a mage, then you can buy this set at this merchant right here. The earliest option you will probably get for alternative mage armor is the Sage armor set near the lake face cliffing grace point in the still water cave, but it's really not that good and you will have to go through an annoying dungeon for it that especially in the early game is going to feel really tedious. And for some reason I have seen people recommend this set, but due to the simple fact that it just has less overall stats than the Astrologer set, it's really not worth getting, unless you really like the aesthetic of the set of course. The only thing that it has going for it is that it weighs less, so it will give you a lighter equip load, but this difference is not significant, it does not matter, you're just better off staying with the Astrologer set and just using that instead. Now before we proceed, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. I'm sure you have heard of them by now, seeing as Raid Shadow Legends is in fact one of the biggest mobile games on the planet, and Raid's got a ton of champions, over 600 now. All of those champions come from unique factions, each with their own history in the world of Talaria. My favorite champion so far is Kale, it's a mage, and you know I like my mages. The best thing is that you can pick him up right at the start, and going through the campaign you will pretty much destroy everyone as he has good AoE abilities, but also a single target ability that does great damage. My personal tip is just to farm the campaign right away, as it's definitely the fastest way to level up your champions. And not so long ago Raid brought a new boss to the game known as the Hydra, and this thing is the ultimate beast. It's relentless and scarier than any boss before. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to take it down as it's a very unique and challenging boss, but I'm having a ton of fun testing things out and experimenting with new strategies. It's also just really fun to try out all the different champions, and thankfully if you are able to take this boss down it will give some of the best rewards around. And this is the best time to get started in Raid, and if you click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen, I can hook you up with unique bonuses worth of $30. We're talking a free epic champion named Aina, 200k silver, 1 energy refill and 1 experience boost and 1 ancient shard. So definitely a very nice start for you if you want to try out the game. For the mid and late game, a lot of options open up to you. A lot of the armor here is related to quest rewards. I'm not going to say anything about these quests, but potentially maybe a little spoiler warning here for you if you care about the outcomes of certain side quests. You'll probably get Rogier's set somewhere around the early to mid game. He'll be stationed at the round hall table, and for this you have to follow the quests that are associated with him. He will drop his set, and his set might initially look good because it explicitly says that it boosts sorcery skills, and it's really easy to interpret that this will boost your sorceries and thus your damage output, but rather it will really just boost sorcery skills and not sorceries. And to make it worse, it's going to only boost glintstone related sorcery skills. So that means Ashes of Wars that have the glintstone in their name, and this might potentially be good for like a Spellblade build, but for a pure mage these bonuses are not going to be really relevant, and thus this is not a set that we will want to use at any time really. Then we have the Perceptor set that you get from Seleuphus. Again, it's related to his quests and in a greater sense also to Rennie's questline. It's a pretty weak set as well. It raises your mind with 3, but it takes quite a cut from your stamina, so it's really not worth the trade-off in my opinion, and also not really worth using. When you get to the capital you will be able to obtain the Alberich mage set. For people who care about fashion you can get it right here. It's a really good looking set, but unfortunately it's another set that's pretty weak for us mages. It boosts one type of sorceries basically when you wear it, and these are the Thorn related sorceries. Specifically there are 2 Thorn related sorceries in the game. These are the Briars of Sin and the Briars of Punishment sorceries. These sorceries are fate based sorceries though, which makes things a bit awkward, and just for that reason the applications of this set are going to be very niche. Even if you would spec into fate as an intelligence mage, for whatever reason these sorceries aren't that great either in terms of FP to damage ratios. So in terms of functionality there's really no reason to wear this set. Then you have the Battlemage set. You can get this drop from killing the Battlemage that's located in the Aldous Plateau region near the West Windmill Pasture location. After you kill him, he will drop the entire set, and honestly I don't even know if it's worth getting, because what it essentially does is that it removes 10% of your FP in trade for giving you 2 extra intelligence and 2 strength. There's no way that this trade-off is worth it for a mage, maybe for a paladin build or something like that, but for mages where FP is extremely important, it's a really bad set. Then we have both the Lusat and Azur mage sets. You will be able to get both of them after you finish Selen's questline. Make sure however that you side with her in the questline, otherwise you will not be able to pick up these sets, so that's very important. You will have to go to their normal locations after you finish the questline and you will be able to pick up the sets. Now Azur is located in Mount Gelmir right here. Lusat is located in Celia's Hideaway right here. Now these sets are kinda interesting, but they are also very limited in their uses, to be honest. They both boost exactly 1 spell and 1 spell only. Azur sets boosts his spell that he gives you, which is Azur's Comet, and it's a great spell of course and very powerful versus many enemies, but this boost comes with a trade-off. It's basically going to cost 15% extra FP. Aside from that, the thing is also that you won't always be able to spam Azur's Comet, especially when you get to the late game and most enemies aren't really that stationary anymore. And in the cases where you actually can use Azur's Comet and spam it, the target will most of the time be stationary or won't be able to reach you simply because it doesn't have a mechanic to cross the beam, which is blocking its path. You will most certainly kill the target within Cerulean's hidden tear's duration, so the boost that you get here in return for the extra FP is not that relevant or great really, at least in my opinion. And this is mostly if you follow my build videos of course, but I have beaten the game on my mage and I've never experienced the case that Azur's Comet didn't do enough damage when I was using it, and the fact that the set boosts just 1 spell does not make me really excited about it either, because in a lot of other scenarios that will just mean that the set is doing nothing for you. And same thing for Lusat's set, it specifically boosts 1 spell, which is again his spell, and this is the Stars of Rune spell. And for the same reason as with Azur, it's really not worth it to wear the set just for this 1 spell. But let's also consider something else. Both of these sets look really unique and cool, so if you don't really care about the functionality and know how to dodge and stuff, then you can always wear them for fashion of course, and in some scenarios you will have a boost to a spell. Now on to the next set, which is going to be Ranni's Snow Witch set. This is one of the cooler sets in the game. You can pick it up halfway through Ranni's quest chain. I would also say that this is probably the best mage set out there in the game, for the simple fact that it actually has a very useful buff. It essentially gives a 10% damage increase to frost spells, and with that in mind, we know that there are a bunch of good frost spells in the game. Adula's Moonblade that you also get during Ranni's quest chain is one of the best spells in the game. It has AoE, applies frostbite and does crazy damage. You can even hit people through walls with it. And if you wear the set, or the helmet more specifically, the Glintstone Ice Crack spell becomes like a Super Saiyan version of the Glintstone Pebble spell, and an improved, harder hitting version of the Great Glintstone Shard spell, which has the exact same FP cost. So you can swap those out if you have them in your rotation, put Glintstone Ice Crack in your rotation instead, make it your primary spell and wear the set, and then deal massive damage that way. And to make things better, this thing also builds up Frostbite as well, which will usually proc within 3 to 4 hits. Now that we've covered all the actual mage sets, it's time to consider the alternative, which I think ultimately might be the better choice. Building your character around staying in the medium load category while upping your defensive stats as much as possible. I go over why you want to do this in part 2 of my most powerful mage build, so watch that if you want to know the reasoning if you haven't yet. This way you won't really look or feel like a mage, but you will have the best all-round defensive stats in the gear that you're wearing. And ultimately all the bonuses come from the helmet in the set, so if any of the sets I just talked about interest you in any shape or form, you can just use the helmet. But if you care more about a set that's going to cover everything essentially, then you probably want to use the Twin Sage Glintstone Crown in the mid game for the whopping +6 intelligence that it gives. This helmet has a very significant trade-off though, in the sense that it takes a lot of your stamina and HP, which makes the helmet actually become increasingly worse as you progress in the game. So in the late game, I prefer to wear the Queen's Crescent Crown, which you unlock after defeating Renella and can buy at the NPC in the Round Hole table. This helmet gives you +3 intelligence but has no trade-offs, which makes it a very good option actually. But basically in the mid game for your chest, trousers and hands, the best option to do so is going to be to pick up the Carian Knight Set. I've also gone over where to get this in part 2 of my mage build, but here is a recap. Go to the graveyard after going to the Church of the Cuckoo Grace. Keep hugging the right till you're at the bridge, then cross the bridge and hug the right some more till you basically go up, and then you want to jump down the platform right here and you'll see a bunch of weirdos surrounding the set. But in the late game you really want to upgrade your set and take it to the next level, and how you do so is going to depend on your equip load, which is going to differ for everyone. But in this video I will make a case for the situation that probably most astrologers are facing. So like I said, we want as many defensive stats as possible while staying in the medium load category, but now we can also start using some heavy armor as well with Renella's helmet equipped. And I find that the scaled armor set does a really good job at this. If you wear the gauntlets and trousers of the scaled armor set with the Carian Knight Set chest, you will exactly get at the border of medium to heavy if you have only 5 additional points in endurance as an astrologer. And this scaled set has some of the highest defensive stats in the entire game, and you will have a relatively high poise rating for a mage as well that's still in the medium load category, and poise is one of the most important stats in the game, as it will mean that you will not collapse as much as before if the enemy gets a hit on you. And without ever spending a point into endurance as an astrologer, you can get those 5 points from the Radicon Sword Shield Talisman, which I really like as a talisman for a mage. And wearing the combination that I told you will make you stay exactly at the highest possible value within the medium load category, and you will not go over it, which makes it a very good combination. You can get the scaled armor set relatively easy. You just have to do a assassination quest in Volcano Manor, which upon arriving in the castle you will be introduced to by these two. Defeat the old knight Istvan and he will drop the set for you. Now this combination is in my opinion the best armor for an astrologer, or a mage rather, given the circumstances, but I'm also curious to what your preferences are, so by all means let me know your thoughts in the comments, because there is in fact just a lot of variables to this. It really depends on how many points you're willing to spend on endurance, for example, and how important you personally find defensive stats over, let's say, fashion or buffs to certain specific spells. But I use this combination to finish the late game and I do think it's really good. I'm definitely curious to hearing your thoughts though. Like the video, that will help out a lot, and subscribe for more.